This is an excerpt from my book, Through a Glass Darkly, Losing Religion, and Rediscovering the Sacred. I spent most of my life trying to be the kind of Christian I believed God wanted me to be. I didn't arrive there casually. Faith was not a hobby for me or a cultural inheritance that sat politely in the background of my life. It was something far more consuming. By the time I was 17 years old, I believed I had found the truth that explained everything: why we suffer, why we exist, and what God expected from all of us. When I became a Christian, it felt like being rescued. I was a teenager who felt small, insecure, and lost in the world. The message that God loved me and had a plan for my life changed everything. Suddenly there was meaning where there had once been confusion. There was hope where there had been anxiety. I threw myself into my faith with the kind of intensity that only a child can muster. I read the Bible obsessively. I devoured books by Christian authors. I prayed constantly and surrounded myself with people who believed the same things I did. Eventually, I built my entire life around the church. I married young and started a family. I believed I was called to ministry. I became a teacher at a Christian school and spent more than a decade serving the church and had become my spiritual home. From the outside, my life looked exactly like the story Christians are taught to pursue. I had faith, a family, and purpose. But beneath the surface, something else was happening. The deeper I moved into the world of organized religion, the more I began to notice something unsettling. The faith that had once felt like freedom slowly began to feel like something else entirely. Fear was everywhere. Fear of doubt, fear of questioning, fear of books, ideas, and the people outside the boundaries of what we were allowed to believe. I began to notice that the institutions claiming to represent God often behaved very differently than the Christ that they preached about every Sunday. At first, I ignored the contradictions. When you dedicate your life to something, it's difficult to admit that the foundation might be cracked. But over time, the cracks widened. Eventually, the church that I had served faithfully for years sat me down in a small office and told me that I was no longer fit to minister the gospel. I'd spent more than a decade building my life around that institution, and in a single conversation, it was gone.